How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to today's Progress Yesterday's Plan. We're on episode 10, and I have today another very special guest. So let me get right to it. I want to introduce my good friend, James Gillespie, and I'm going to talk about his journey that he's gone on. He is actually works in the fire department and in the fire prevention industry, and it's a very interesting story. We've known each other for a long time. I can't even count the years right now. So I
Yeah.
just want to say hello, James. How you doing, man?
I'm good, Marco. How are you? I'm I'm glad to be on here. I'm really glad to be on here with you. I've been kind of watching this and following your progress here and seeing every show as you kind of get better. And obviously reached out because I was super excited to at least get involved and kind of support what you have going on and just be a little bit a part of it.
Dope, man. Thank you. I really appreciate it. And I hope that's encouraging to those who listen. I want to thank you for listening and really give you props for reaching out because I think that initiative of like reaching out for anything, the fact that you reached out to me and we're having this conversation today is really cool. Um,
Absolutely. I'm excited to be here.
Before I actually go on and we're going to get deep into like that journey, James, I just want to continue a little story I was telling in the last episode. I don't know if you heard it, but like time ran out and I was about to get into this like deep story of an experience I had. I was actually talking about hypnosis for some reason in the last episode. I don't know
Hmm.
if you heard.
Yeah.
Um, do you like have you ever experienced hypnosis or like
I haven't.
believe in
I
it
know.
or I don't know.
Well, I could give you a solid story. My mother, before she had me many moons ago, she was a smoker, and she decided she had to quit smoking because my dad didn't smoke. He didn't want anything to do with it, and so she went to a hypnotist, and she can't even smell cigarettes without getting sick to her stomach now. Never had one again. Never wanted one again. As you know my mom. She's not a
Yeah.
smoker at all, but she believes that it worked wonders for her. So that's kind of the limited experience, but never went back to it, never had a craving for it. So it seems like it worked.
Yo, that's interesting. I'm a strong believer in it, and I was gonna tell this story in the last episode. I mean, there's been like movies that talk about hypnosis and things like that, and
Yeah.
I've actually spoken to a boss of mine who was recommending it to me at one point, and had the therapist, I guess we could call it, or the hypnotist that I was gonna go see, and I never went because I was kind of scared, and I still am kind of like tripped out on the fact of someone in your head and like is able to help you, but they're in your head, right? So I'll just get to that
Maybe
story
plant some
really quick.
seeds. Yeah, let's hear
Totally.
it.
So what I was starting to say in the last episode is that at one time when I was dating one of my exes, and I don't know if you have that experience that like when you guys are in that stage of talking on the phone and don't go to sleep and like stay up and like, yeah, let's talk till we fall asleep type of thing. So we were
Oh
in one
yeah.
of those moments, and I was falling asleep, and I was literally telling her like, "Hey, I'm falling asleep. I gotta go." And she's like, "No, no, stay on the phone." But I was literally going into like a dream, and I was realizing it. I was telling her like, "No, I'm falling asleep." Like I was seeing her in my dream, and her conversation on the phone was going through in my dream. So like I could see her visually, and whatever she was saying on the phone, she was telling me in my dream. So I was like, "Whoa, this is weird." So we were talking, and she was like, "No, stay on the phone." I was like, "No, I'm falling asleep, and pass me the fork." She said, "Huh?" I was like, "Pass me the fork. It's by the potato salad." And we were at my mom's kitchen table, and it was her and my cousin, and we were having potato salad. And I was like, "Pass me the fork." She's like, "What the hell are you talking about?" I was like, "Hell, it's with Lily. Lily has it. My cousin, give me the." And then she started getting all upset, like, "Who's Lily? Who's that?" And in my dream, I was tripping out. I was like, "You're in my head. You're talking to me." I was like, "I just gotta go. I gotta go." And I hung up. And to me, like, if that was like planned or more conscious of it, like she could have totally probed my brain or guided me or something, right? I think
Probably got a little bit deeper and asked you some questions and got some real
yeah,
truth from you.
where I kind of lose the sense of dream and I don't know.
Yeah.
So that was
Yeah.
my
No,
story
you're
of like,
vulnerable.
yeah. And so with that said though, I am very open to that, and I kind of would like to experiment with that someday and maybe see a professional, maybe with someone close to me who could be there as well to
Yeah.
monitor what's going
Yeah.
on.
Now, is there a specific thing you want to get out of that? Are you looking for, what's the intentions behind it? Is it like a motivation thing? Is it just to try to fix bad habits, or what's the reasoning behind it?
I think the reasoning behind it is just to explore my own mind and the capabilities of my mind. Maybe I don't know if specifically address bad habits, but maybe change habits or see how I can maybe create new habits or be more self-disciplined. Um, Maybe explore memories that might be in there that I just don't recall. I don't know. I
Absolutely.
think it's just a curiosity quest for me, and like I have a lot of vivid dreams many times and things like that. So I kind of am into the whole exploring that side of the brain. So
Do you talk in your sleep?
that I know of, no, I
No.
haven't.
You've never had a complaint from a significant other or
Mm,
anything that, hey, okay.
no, no significant other, no relatives. I have had those dreams where like you separate from your body and you're kind of in the space. I don't know if
Like the astral plane type stuff.
yeah, like
I think it's something like that. Yeah.
something like that. Like I totally think I'm in my room, in my space. Everything feels normal, and then I always get paralyzed and stuck, and then somehow like get pulled back, and I could feel that pull back till like I get back to my bed, and then I wake up. So I totally feel like it's like a disconnection of I don't know,
Hmm.
I don't know, some weird
One of
stuff.
those.
So one of
Yeah.
those weird,
Did you
but
not? You're not drinking some special peyote tea or something before you go to bed?
no, I'm not. So imagine if I was.
Yeah, I know, dude. You'd be seeing some stuff. They seem you're gonna be
Totally.
telling us that you're running with the wolves.
I'll let you know as soon as I try that because that might happen. But kind of to deviate a little bit off that topic, I just needed
Yeah.
to bring that in because it was where I left off. But I'm glad to have you on here, James, and I just would like you to tell the audience and those people a little who are listening a bit about your background, specifically in like your career and maybe your where you are in life right now and how you got here, just so we have a little
Yeah.
background.
Yeah. So I kind of started late in my career. I was a late bloomer. For anyone that knows me and sees this, I was young, but I was also young mentally for a long time. So I had a little bit of a late start. So when I was about 22 years old, 23 years old, I saw friends, graduating from college, finding success and all these things. And I kind of had a come to Jesus talk with myself, if you will, and basically realized that, hey, I can either do what I'm doing now and continue. I was working at the time for FedEx Freight, which wasn't bad. And, trucking industry is important and I value it, but it wasn't how I wanted to spend my life as far as a career. And so I ended up just signing up at community college and taking a fire class. My younger brother and his friends had signed up to take them. And I figured, hey, if they could do it, I could do it. So I signed up and took the class. At that point in time, I had long hair. So I went to the first day of class in a fire program and had long hair and everything else. And teacher called me out immediately, like, hey, you're going to make it in this world. You got to cut that hair off. Like, no one's going to take you seriously. And so the next week I showed up to class and my hair was cut and it was fresh. And I just kind of dove in the deep end and decided, hey, I'm going to take this stuff seriously. So as a benefit, going back to college later, I kind of knew the value of it. So I feel like I was able to get a lot more out of it and kind of accelerate because I wanted and I knew the value and I knew what I needed to get out of it. So I was able to take it seriously. So I was going to be a firefighter. That was my dream. Did my EMT, want to be a firefighter, did my fire tech classes. In college, I had the opportunity to do an internship with the Rancho Cucamonga Fire Prevention Bureau. And I started learning about this whole the world of fire protection and engineering and design and building design. I was like, this is pretty interesting. I think I want to deviate and do this other career. So I stayed on as a volunteer there, continued working, finished my associate's degree, moved into warehousing and moved up in a company called Uline, became a shift supervisor there and was running a little operation team of about 14 people. And then sometimes if you're left in charge up to 120 people. So it's a big operation.
Nice.
I was running that. I was volunteering with Riverside City Fire at the time because I bought my first house there. So I would go into Riverside City at 6:30 in the morning. I'd volunteer there in the Fire Prevention Bureau until 10:30 in the morning. I'd start work at 11 and I'd get off around 9 o'clock at night. And I'd wake up and do it all over again. And I was working on my bachelor's degree. So it was a lot of sacrifice, many nights of 2 hours of sleep, 3 hours of sleep. But I knew what I wanted my career goal to be. So it's kind of in my head, the time was going to pass no matter what. So I wanted to make the most of that time. I didn't want to look back in 2 years and go, man, I wish I would have accomplished these other things when I had the ability to. So it was a lot of accountability for myself, similar to kind of what your podcast is about as far as accountability and, tracking progress. So I stuck with that. And finally, I was given the opportunity to work for Riverside County Fire, moved up there. And in this process of going through all this, taking classes and everything, I realized that a lot of the fire prevention stuff was taught by people that didn't know fire prevention. It was taught by operations people. So very important, but your engineers, your captains, the people out, running into buildings, but they don't know the history of how that building was built, why that building was designed that way, functions of it. They just utilize it once it's done. They get an end product. So they're teaching these classes, and I'm like, hey, they're not teaching the right stuff. So I decided, hey, I want to teach one day if given the opportunity. So finished my time at Riverside City. I get hired to do fire investigations and fire prevention work for the City of Vista, for the City of Vista Fire Department. Incredible opportunity, incredible people. While I was there, I ended up sitting on the steering committee for Miramar College to develop a degree in fire prevention. So I worked on developing this whole degree, this whole process. And fortunately for me, they ended up offering me a job. They saw that I was into it, that I cared about it. So it's kind of a handshake kind of deal. They said, do you want to teach here? I said, I'd love to. So I ended up teaching there. So I get my fire investigator certification and get my training for that, get all my fire inspector stuff, which I kind of had going into Vista from Riverside County Fire. And from there, I was able to develop a kind of a plan as far as teaching goes. I got certified with state fire training as an instructor. I finished my bachelor's degree, did all these things to make sure I can get hired on as an adjunct at the college. I get the job. So I started teaching there, and it's been almost 3 years now I've been with the college. And now, after about almost 2 years at Vista, I left and went to Newport Beach Fire. So now I work at Newport Beach Fire. I specifically work as what's called like an analyst or a plans examiner. So now what I do is I get all new buildings that are coming in or modifications to buildings, and I look at them. Can this be done? Is it within the scope of the building code, the fire code, mechanical code? Does it meet standards for fire and life safety? Because we want to make sure if you're looking at a new building and you want the fire department to go help you, the building has to be set up for that. So I always tell people, you can have water, and you need water and you need access. You have to be able to get there, and you need water to put the fire out, right? If you don't have either of those things, you can invite your friends to come play, but you're not going to accomplish anything. So how do we have that infrastructure? So now I look at that, and it's a lot of development and dealing more now with architects, engineers, that type of world. So I kind of live in that world now. I love it. I'm passionate about it. And I'm currently working on a master's degree in fire protection engineering so I can become a licensed engineer. And I'm doing that through UC San Diego.
Dude, that's a lot. That's a lot that you just covered. And I mean,
sorry, yeah.
No, it's good though. And I just want to ask really quick. So from what you just started and from, walking in there with the long hair to now working on your master's, what was that time period of everything that you just covered right now? How many years?
Probably about 11 years.
Okay. So that's a pretty long span. So for those that were just hearing this, like on, it's kind of like that whole iceberg picture. People see the tip, they don't see those 11 years that was going down there, which brings me to an important point, which is, I mean, right when you got into it, James, like you had a busy schedule, and like you said, from dusk to dawn, you were just knocking things out.
I was grinding.
A very important, I don't know if it's like a skill, or it takes a type of person, that knows what they want. You mentioned that like you knew what it was that you wanted. But there's a lot of people out there who sometimes think they know what they want, or they might not, they say, I want to accomplish XYZ, right? But when it comes down to putting in all those hours or sacrificing things, I mean, do you really want something if you're not willing to sacrifice something of equal or greater value, right? So my question then, if you could explain a bit and tell people, like, what were you mentioned that when you saw like people graduating and you saw other people as examples, what was it that you can identify that helped you pinpoint that moment, right? Like to say, this is the path I'm willing to sacrifice things to and move forward. I mean, have you always had kind of like, I mean, for as long as I've known you, I never would have imagined that this would be the career path you take, but it sounds freaking awesome, and like you're very passionate about it. So where was that, no pun intended, when was that fire sparked?
Yeah. So there's two things that I could recall specifically. The first I already spoke to. I saw other people
Mhm.
finding success, graduating, and I kind of realized that not that I was a loser, because I wasn't, but that
Mhm.
I wasn't going to accomplish goals I wanted to accomplish. I had no means to it, right? So
Mhm.
I didn't have access to the economy. I wasn't going to buy a house. I didn't have that type of money. And I saw people where I was working, and it was always a struggle. They're always talking about month to month, paycheck to paycheck. And I didn't want to be month to month. I didn't want to be paycheck to paycheck. I kind of wanted more for that. I saw, I wanted to be able to afford things that, have a family one day and things like that. The other incident was and this is a very personal thing to me that I always reflect on, that kind of was a jolt. I I wasn't fiscally responsible, right? So I wasn't making a lot of money, but I was spending money like I was making a lot of money. So I was going
Mhm.
out, I was drinking, I was hanging out with friends. And I went to the mall one day. I went to the Brea Mall one day with a couple friends, and they wanted to go get food, right? So we went to lunch to get food, and I had to make a decision at that point as to whether I was going to eat or go out and drink that night, because I didn't have enough money in my pocket to do one or the other.
Mhm.
And I was kind of not disgusted with myself, but kind of like, it was a very reality shaking
Yeah.
experience. It's like, man,
Awakening.
like
Yeah.
it was. And it was kind of like, no, like, I don't want to be this way. And it kind of just flipped a switch that I'm going to do more. It kind of beat me down. So I always look back on those two moments. It's like the moment I decided nothing will stop me, and then in addition to that, it was the finding the right thing to be passionate about, right? Because there was a
Mhm.
couple things I tried to dabble in at first to see if I liked, but there was something about just the fire service, the idea of, working, understanding fire, the science behind it, how things go boom, all that stuff really just intrigued me. And then the idea of the building aspect, it's just very challenging. And it was like, it's something that I could see me doing where I'm having to learn something new every day. I didn't want something to where, hey, I can master this. And you
Mhm.
can't master it. You could just try to get better at it. The codes change every 3 years. So it's not like you can remember from 30 years ago
Yeah.
what and apply that today. So it was just that kind of pushed me. The other portion is, and I'll be quiet here in a minute, that way you can say what you have
No,
to
you're
think and
good.
respond. But the other portion of that is I took the approach, the mindset of every day is the Super Bowl. When I got
Mm.
up every day, I told myself every day is the Super Bowl. Every day you have to take this seriously. You have to prep. You have to follow through. So I didn't take days off. I didn't allow myself to take days off. And I kind of set a rule for myself. When you get to that point where you're ready to quit, working on
Mhm.
homework,
Mhm.
working on a project, and you're ready to quit, I gave myself, I called it the 5 minute rule. 5 more minutes. Anything I'm doing when I'm ready to quit, I give it at least 5 more minutes, right? If I'm working on homework and I'm not going to finish the assignment, no, suck it up, give it 5 more minutes, get through this lull in what you're working on, 5 more minutes. So I held myself to that for everything I did was 5 more minutes, and I just pushed it. It's
Dope.
kind of stupid. And the other
No,
portion was,
it's little
yeah,
things like that that
yeah.
that help, but go ahead.
Yeah, and then just self-critique and being honest with myself, right?
Mhm.
If I went and interviewed and I didn't get the job, right? Or I had a bad day at work, I would kind of beat myself up on the way home, and not in a negative way, but in a, hey, you could have done this better. Let's work on that tomorrow. Change your focus to here. If this isn't working, don't spin your wheels not
Mhm.
getting anywhere, change it. So I just kind of held myself accountable all the time, and had to look at myself in the mirror and be honest, right?
Yeah,
Um,
that's good, and to not be discouraged, because that's great that you have that mindset and that attitude of how to look within yourself to recognize just what happened, how you could better, how you could, uh, do it differently maybe, and try different things to, get to that result, right? I think a lot of times we get stuck in, like, a pattern or trying the same thing over and over, and then just all those no's and no's are like failures of trying the same thing over and over. It's like, hey, you got to reflect and see what you could analyze to do different, because
yeah,
doing the same thing over and over is
and
not good.
I tell my students all the time, you're going to get a lot of no's. Look at every no as one step closer to yes. You're going to
Mhm.
fail. It's inevitable. Use that as a tool, right? Every time you fail, it's a new tool in your belt, right? So every no you get, you're one step closer to yes. And we can call them failures, but I like to look at them as just learning opportunities, right?
For sure.
They're always learning opportunities. So it's like, take that and wear it as a badge of honor, right? Hey, I didn't get it this time, but I got here. I tell my students, you're right now, you can't even apply for the job. In a year from now, you can apply for
Mhm.
the job. That alone is a victory. Now you're qualified to even get your foot in the door. Maybe you don't get an interview. 2 years from now, you get your first interview. That's another victory, right? All those little things are those little victories that push you a little bit further. So every no is literally a step closer to yes if you follow through on it.
And especially how you said right now, like, look, like right now you can't apply to the job. In a year you can, or in 2 years this, in 3 years X, Y, Z, and five, like in 11 years, look where you're at. I think sometimes we try to measure that success that we
Mhm.
see, or younger people try to measure like a success that is years away, and it's totally achievable. Time goes by so fast. Just stick to the path, stick to
Mhm.
the journey, and not get discouraged when like a few months go by and it's like, oh, I'm not at this point. It's like, man, you got a long way to go, but you're on your way. Keep going it. I want to ask you something
Absolutely.
else really quick that you said
Yeah.
earlier, which is cool, is that like you discovered the fire prevention and you were working the fire, and it really lit that passion for you, but you said you tried other things, right? And I'm just curious to what kind of things you tried and realized that it wasn't for you. And the reason I ask is because people, and I speak for myself too, is like sometimes I spread myself very thin, or sometimes on different projects that I'm
Yeah.
working on, for example, or just sometimes for those that think they're on the right path and they're not enjoying it, and they keep sticking with it, right? Because they think that's what they need to
Yeah.
accomplish. I mean, how did you recognize, like, no, I need to step back and try something else? And,
Yeah.
you
I
know?
wasn't I wasn't happy, right? I didn't have the
Mhm.
I got to the point to where, hey, I don't really want to push for this, right? I didn't want to fight for it. And I realized, hey, yeah, if I don't want to fight for this, why am I putting in the time? Find something I want to fight for. It's not easy, right? I tried getting into screen printing. I tried getting into, obviously when I was working for FedEx Freight, maybe I become a driver. Maybe I do
Mhm.
this, working at Uline. Maybe I move up in logistics. Logistics is something I know I could do that. I've kind of had background in it. That was kind of my a large part of my life, right? But all those things didn't call to me personally, and I didn't feel the urge to push. Now I would every day. I do the best I could, but when it came to the fire thing, it was like, holy crap, like I can do this. Like this is something I want to wake up and do. It wasn't like I ever had to study. It was that I
Mhm.
wanted to study. If the homework's to read a chapter, I read two or three, and then I went back and read it again, and I did the extra quiz. I wanted to know it like the back of my hand. I wanted to be the student in class that, not that I was always right or teacher's pet, but I never wanted to get called on and not have the answer or
Mhm.
not know where
Mhm.
to find the answer. And it kind of motivated me there. And then once I got hired on the job, the working for government, and everyone knows kind of how it is. A lot of people get into it and it becomes very stagnant, right? They're happy.
Mhm.
Hey, I got my salary, I
Mhm.
got my pension, I got my medical care, and I could ride this for the next 30 years. That wasn't me. I saw people standing by and I go, no, I'm not going to settle for that. I want more. People say they want to be the chief, they want to be the fire marshal. They say they want it because they see pay, they see
Mhm.
perks,
Mhm.
things like that. They don't want to put in the work to get there. And for
Yeah.
me, it was like, no, I'm going to put in the work because when that job comes, I want to be ready for it. I don't want lack of qualification on experience, lack of qualification because of a piece of paper. I want to be pushed that next level and get it. And recently, I was promoted at work last week. So
Really?
yeah,
Congrats,
so
man.
it was
Sick.
so I did
Living
just get
proof.
from yeah, I did just get promoted at work, and I've been there about 2 years now, and I was able to not surpass some counterparts, but be in a position that they felt that I was the most qualified and the best person for the job. Didn't have to interview for it, not doing a probation. They 100% handed me the job because they felt that. So, you know, some some people say it's lucky. I just find myself in good positions. I like to say it's a little bit of luck, right? Because you need that on your side. Fortunately, I've been healthy. I
Yeah.
haven't had any major setbacks, but a lot of it's just work. You got to grind it out,
No,
right?
yeah.
Every day, you got to
And
grind it out.
like you said right now, recognizing those opportunities and being prepared for it. So like you're
Yes.
preparing yourself for something that you don't know when it's coming, but you know that you prepared for it. So you're able to recognize that opportunity, that moment, and be like, hey, I've already envisioned this in my head. You're ready to act. That's
Yeah.
really cool
Yeah.
about that.
I'm always open to it. I'm constantly looking, constantly keeping my eyes open. I don't rest. I literally look at the jobs that are flying every day for the positions I want one day to see what are they looking for now? What are the qualifications
Mm.
now? What could I start doing to get better? Um, and that's why I'm still going to school. Realistically, I could stop right now and probably live pretty darn good with where I'm at, but I don't want to. It's like I want that
Mhm.
next thing. It's like I just want to keep pushing. I have certain goals and aspirations that I see long term. Again, not 5 years from now, not 10 years from now, 20 years from now, potentially. Like
Mm-hmm.
there's things I want to do. There's certain positions that are appointed even by the president for the highest level of, for fire service in the United States. I want to get one of those positions one day. Like that's my goal. I want to end up back east in Maryland working for the National Fire Academy. So I see that, but I'm
Yeah.
not going to get there just being average Joe. They don't hire average Joe. They hire
Yeah.
people that really, really put it in.
And you won't get there just think, like you said, like they say they want to get the chief job. They say they want to get, like, you'll never get there just saying, oh, I want to be in Maryland. Like, it's awesome that
No.
you're taking those steps, like you're recognizing like a game plan, and you're
Mm-hmm.
like, I have to start checking off these checkpoints now
Oh,
that
for
will
sure.
eventually lead to that. That's awesome. I want to go back a little bit to all that strategy you're talking about, James, because it's really dope. And I think it's really awesome to know that you went back and you're like teaching. One of the things that I really believe in, and I'm also a teacher myself in my industry, which in
Mm-hmm.
media. And one of the things that I really believe in is like the proliferation of knowledge, right? Like acquiring knowledge, learning, but then
Mm-hmm.
paying it forward. And like I enjoy the
Absolutely.
feeling of like speaking of what I know and just seeing how people consume that and like, wow, like I learned something, or like then, they take that with them. Like what is it about you? Tell us a little bit about what you're doing in teaching, and like what's that
Yeah.
feel like for you?
So for me, it's probably the most rewarding thing I've done professionally, more so than anything else.
Mhm.
I get a lot of young people, right? I get a lot of young people that have hopes and dreams, and they want to go down this road. And I look back to when I started going down the road, and I couldn't get a straight answer from anybody. And so it's like now I literally go out of my way to make sure that when people leave my class, any of the ones I'm teaching, uh, they have the I have given them my all. I've invested everything I can. I make sure they understand, they retain. I always tell people this class isn't about whether you get an A, B, or C. It's whether you get the material. That's all I care about. I want you to understand this. If you can understand the concepts and you can apply the concepts, then I've done my job. So I really try to push people. And you have all different levels of mindsets and capabilities that you're dealing with. So it's finding that balance. But like you said, the paying it forward part, that's the huge part. I can go to most fire conferences now and meet and probably run into 5 to 10 people that have been hired with fire departments that I've taught. And that's the most rewarding feeling in the world, saying, hey, I got
Sick.
hired here. This is what I'm doing now. You did such a great job in your class. You set me up. I give them the real world experience. I give them the book knowledge that they need. And I'm there for them. I always say here, I put my personal number up at the very beginning of class to go, anything you need, you always call me. Rain or shine, you call me. You have an interview, let's do a mock interview. You have
Mhm.
questions, let's have questions. I meet up with students, I take phone calls, I email students from 3 years ago. I'm still in contact with that reach out to me, hey, I got this job and now I'm looking at doing this. What's my next step? I stress myself, I stretch myself thin, but it doesn't feel like it's thin. I'm always busy
Mhm.
with it, but it feels like it's like I truly enjoy it. I love those conversations. A gentleman is interviewing for a job. I talked to him yesterday. He was saying, what do I do to get this job? How do I interview? I went through the process, but then part of it's not just getting them through the process, but it's making them believe in themselves that they can do it, right? How do you push
Yeah.
someone to say, I will go run through that brick wall, right? I wanted him to go in that interview and not feel like, hey, I don't have everything. I want him to go in that interview and believe that he's going to be the person that's going to get that job. He's going to go in there and he's going to knock him out like Rocky Balboa. And it's like, how do
Mhm.
you get that mindset and plant that seed to where not only do I believe in you, but more importantly, do you believe in you?
Sick, man. Well, you definitely sound like one of those professors that everybody wants to have and should have. So, hey, really, like from the bottom of my heart, James, I'm proud of you. Like, I'm glad to hear
Thank
this
you.
journey you've been on. And I mean, we've covered a lot. We've covered like your journey, some great tips. We're actually running out of time here. So I just want to wrap it up with saying thank you once again, and ask if you can share for those of that are listening and who may be pursuing a career path like yours, or maybe what's a good resource they can go to, or a school or a website, and maybe if you'd like to share some like social for yourself on your end.
Yeah. So as far as school goes, most community colleges offer a fire tech program. That's going to be your launching point. if you want to be firefighter. If you want to go fire prevention, you're going to have to do those classes as well. But again, they're very operations driven for what we call the floor. You know, the guys going out there with the hose, water, and everything else. State fire training, California. If you're in California, state fire training website. If you just Google California State Fire Training, they have all the classes listed that are up there. You have no prereqs to meet to sign up for those classes. Log in, look them up, sign up and start taking class. Just show up and take a class. That's it. Don't be afraid. Just do it. You're not going to know everything. You're going to be in there with a bunch of other people that are afraid to take it too. I remember my first day walking in, the nerves and the shakiness. Just do it. Whatever you want to do. It doesn't have to be fire or anything else. Quit holding yourself back and just jump in and do it. And for me personally, if you want to reach out to me, you can look me up on Instagram at ono-Gillespie, OHNOGILLESP as in Paul, IE. Feel free to reach out to me, message me, ask me for any information. Again, I want to help everyone I can, especially if we need more females in the fire service. I'm a huge proponent of that. I'm a father of 2 girls. So females, please, we need you in the fire service. We need more of you in here. We're better for it when we have you, especially at those chief officer levels. We're better off for it. So please feel free to reach out.
Love it, James. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, guys, there you have it. My good friend, James Gillespie. We go way back. I think I might have to have another call at some point and talk about some cool stories we have. We played in a band together.
Yeah.
Good times, but you'll have to come back on the show, James. I would really like that. And for those of you watching, thanks again. As always, I'll catch you next time. Today's progress, yesterday's plan, every Friday. See you guys.